Hello everyone and welcome again to lesson 9 of the CSS playlist. In our previous lesson we looked at the CSS padding, and now let's take time and look at the CSS height and the width property. So, and what is height and what is width? The height and the width properties are used to set or to apply the height and the width of an element. We also have another property called the maximum width, and the maximum width is used to set the maximum width of an element. Note that the height and the width properties do not include the padding, the border, or the margins. They only set the height and the width of the area inside the padding, the border, and the margin. And that is to say, they only set the height and the width of the content area. So anytime you are applying the height and the width, you are only applying the height and the width of the content area. Later on in the next lesson, we are going to look at the box model, and we're going to see that when you are applying the height, you are only setting the height here and not including these other external heights here. The same thing to the width, it is the width of the content that you are applying. So without a further ado, let's get started and see how we can apply the height and the width to any HTML element. So I'm going to head over to my Visual Studio, and in my HTML page, about page.html, I have these paragraphs. The first paragraph with an ID, paragraph 1, the second paragraph with an ID, paragraph 2. And then in our style file, I have selected the first paragraph with an ID, paragraph 1, and applied this border and this padding. Now let me apply the height and the width to this paragraph. So I can come below the next line, and then I can add that it should have a height of 300 pixels. So let me save this, and now when you go to your browser, you're going to see that the height has increased to 300 pixels. I can as well apply the width, so you can see now by default the paragraph, because it's a block level element, it will take the whole width. But you can apply your own width according to the way you desire it. So you can go back again here, and I can also specify the width, and I can say the width is going to be 300 pixels as well. So again, when you come back here, you're going to see that the width has decreased to 300 pixels. You can then play around with the figures here and apply the width and the height that meets your design. And then we have the concept of the maximum width. The maximum width, so when you specify maximum width as 300 pixels, it means that this content can only be 300 pixels wide, and even if there is more text here, then this content will not expand. So the maximum width defines the maximum width of that element. So with that said, I want to pause this content here, and it is all about applying the height and the width of an element. In our next lesson, we will take a look at looking on the CSS box model. Another thing I want to say before we close is the percentage. So instead of using the pixels, you can define the width as in form of percentages, both the width and the height. So here I can remove the 300 pixels and I can say 50%. And now if the width is 50%, it means that this element should take 50% of the total width of this browser window. And when I say 100%, then it is going to take the whole width of this browser window. And now I can change it to whatever percentage. The advantages of using percentage is that it makes your web responsive. So I can go back to using 60%. So later on we will look at the concept of responsive web design, and you can see it is better to use percentage than fixed with pixels. And that's all I wanted to add. In the next lesson we'll look at the CSS box model. Otherwise, thank you for joining this lesson, and see you in the next lesson.